brand name, done. Designs, done. Now you want to start sampling clothes. How do we do that? Let's figure it out. One of my main aims with this channel is to give a lot of advice on how to start your own brand, because myself personally, when I started my brand 7 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. It was hard to find information, and there's a lot of things that I learned over the years that I would love to have known way before I started. So I saw a comment earlier on this week asking about the sampling process, so I thought, cool, let's do a video on that. So I'm Ime 4K, owner and founder of clothing and accessories label Jehugal. Started around 7 years ago, as seen in GQ, Complex, Hypebeast, Highsnobiety, BBC, ID Magazine, London Fashion Week. Anyway, it's not important. Also as seen worn by Annotation, Emil Smith Rowe, Hero Things Tiffin. But anyway, today I'm going to take you through how to start your own clothing label by getting into the sampling process, how to get these samples made, get done accurately. I'm going to also give you some tips and tricks at the end of the video as well, so you can get your brand started, get the samples going, and get that money in so you can go and buy a brand new Rolex Datejust Blueface with the bezel as well, or just pay for your groceries and bills that week. Whatever you prefer, it's up to you. However, before we get into the real good deals, I got one favor from you. Subscribe, please. We're so close. I'm going to break it down into 6 easy steps. Designing your product, annotating your product, sending your supplier the product and detailing it to them, receiving the sample in, reviewing the sample, and then hopefully at the very end, signing it off for bulk production and getting on to the next step of bulk ordering, marketing, and then releasing your product online. Well, with no design, there's no product. So first of all, you're gonna need a design like this. For example, we have this fleece jacket here that I designed a few months ago. It's just made for the winter sort of time. I might not actually release it anymore. I like it a lot, but I think the time has passed, so it might come out later on this year. Who knows? Regardless, there needs to be a design first of all. So you can see I've put my logos in here. I've got my Jehugal mirrors print, so our anagram print on the patches here, on the sleeves, etc. And that's that. Cool, fine, done. I prefer to design on Adobe Illustrator. However, I need to really stress to you that it's not important to have the latest software to design your clothes on. When I first started my brand, I designed my first product on Microsoft Paint and Microsoft Word on a £200 old HP computer my dad bought me for university. You don't need the latest equipment. With whatever you have, it's good enough for then. If you have to use Canva, use Canva. You have to use Paint, use Paint. You have to go and get a cracked version of Photoshop. Do what you gotta do to get the ball rolling and get yourself going. Stage 2 is to now annotate. Once you've designed your product, that's fine. You in your head know how it's meant to look, but your supplier won't know. You need to give as much detail as you can. So what I say to you next is now go into your layers, lock this layer, for example, make a new layer and call it Annotation. Once you've done this now, keep it real simple and just put notes. Just saying, for example, okay, I want this logo here to be embroidered, oops, I can't even spell, embroidered logo. So they know that, cool. I don't know the exact correct word for this, but I just know that down here, I want this to have little toggle things, like toggles to adjust waist, just hem, sorry, adjust the hem of the garment. A great example here is that on the design, I've put the zips as being grey, just so you can see where they are. However, I know I want the actual design for them to be black. So you're going to put a note here and say, zippers to be tonal, or you can say black. Tonal, brackets, black. And I want the style to be more of a chunky sort of style zipper as well, so chunky style. Now, the reason why I say to not overstress having the latest programs for your design is because your annotations are way more important than the design itself. I've sent over the worst designs ever before, but because I put enough detail in my annotation, I was able to get the product that I wanted pretty much bang on. I would highly recommend putting visual as well as verbal references into your design annotation as well. For example, with this jacket, this is my first time making a fleece jacket. However, I know that I liked one that I saw in North Face and I was like, cool, that's quite a similar place to where I want to be at. That's a good foundation for me to start at. So when I told my suppliers that, hey, I'm making this fleece, I went onto the North Face site and I found one that I liked on there. I said, look, this is pretty much the basis of what I want to go off of. Can you go quite similar to this design here in terms of measurements and cut and quality, but with my design instead? So my supplier then bought in that North Face jacket into their factory, took it in, took my design, compared it, put it together, and we got to my final product. Another tip that I would give you as well with this is, when working with suppliers, you need to speak as literally as possible. Don't give ambiguous sort of statements and say, oh, I want larger zip or I want larger logo. You need to be as exact as you can. It's especially important when working with international suppliers. I work with suppliers in different countries, and I've spoken with someone that told me, look, when we communicate, they just take what I send them on WhatsApp or on email or whatever, copy it, paste it into Google Translate, and go via whatever the translator gives them. So you need to make sure that whatever you're saying is exact, it is bang on, otherwise it might translate a little bit different. Try and keep your English or whatever language you use as basic as possible and straight to the point. And always use numbers. Always use numbers. If you want something to be a little bit larger, say by 4 centimeters, or make it smaller by 2.5 centimeters, or turn it by so degrees. Be exact as you can and use numbers. You ain't gonna be a math genius, but just use numbers. Okay, so now your design is finished. Completio, finito, done. You've designed your garment, you've put your annotations on there, you've put your reference points as well by saying you want to go similar to this jacket or that jacket. Cool, done. Now it's time to send it off to your supplier. I'd recommend saving it as a PDF file because it's the most universal file type, and I'm pretty sure 99.9% of suppliers will be fine with a PDF file. However, there are some things to be aware of. If you use Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop and you save that file and you have the latest version like I do, because I have the Adobe Creator program, that expensive program. Anyway, sorry, I'm back. So if you have that and you put it as the latest file type and the latest software, your supplier may not have the latest software on their Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, therefore they cannot access that file. So I'd recommend doing it as a PDF type. If you use a PDF, also be aware that when you're designing, I use a lot of custom fonts on my designs, which aren't standard with the Adobe program or Word or whatever program they may open it in, which means that if you save it as a PDF, it's going to change the font type back to a more standard generic font. You don't want that to happen. The way around that is when you're saving a file, you need to go onto Adobe Illustrator and create outlines of the text. Turn it into an image or whatever it's called, or pixelate, whatever it is. But outline the text and turn it into that. So when you save it, it will stay in the right font type and you're good to go from there. So now that the file is sent off across the world to your supplier or up the road in England, wherever you are, it's now time to sit and wait. There's no set time for how long a sample should take, but there are a few factors that will influence the amount of time it will take. For example, the first one being how complex the garment is. Something like this, a fleece jacket that we're working on here, where we've got multiple zippers, different patches on the arms, the toggles, the shape, the embroidery, might take a little bit longer. It could be around about 14 to 21 days to get done. It depends on how available the fabrics are, etc. Another thing is how unique the garment is as well, which is kind of like what I said before, but in terms of if you've got a supplier where you've been making the same hoodie with a logo on the front for the last 6 months and you want to sample a new colorway with the same logo on the front, that would be pretty quick to get done, maybe a week, if not less. But if you now want to go and do a hoodie with a zipper on the side or change it, or it's not really a very standard shape garment, like maybe for a unique shape or silhouette, it might take a little bit longer to get done. I'd roughly say around about 7 to 14 working days is a good amount of time for a sample to get done at a good standard as well. But another point to be aware of as well is that your supplier relationship will also influence how fast that sample gets done. For example, I have a supplier where when we first started to work together, it might have taken about 2 to 3 weeks to get a sample done. A bit frustrating, but I was new to him and he was new to me. They weren't aware of what my plans were with the brand going forward, so they're going to think, okay, we'll get it done in a decent time, but we're not going to push ourselves too much to get this done. But now it's at a point where they know if I get a sample done in January, I want to order the bulk by end of that month. when the sample is done and checked up, I'm ordering in 100, 200, 300, 400 units straight away. So they're going to work a lot faster. So as you continue to work with the same suppliers and build that link with them, they'll start to work a little bit faster. I mean, so yeah, once the sample's sent off, like there isn't really much you can do in that time apart from just sit and wait or sit and pray. Straight by that's $9.99. Sit and chill, wait for it to come in, I don't know, do a workout or something, I don't know, get some gains going or something, like just kill time, because you got 7 to 14 days waiting for that sample to arrive, my friend, so don't sit twiddling your thumbs. But don't worry, because one day that sample will arrive, and when it does, it's gonna feel amazing. And all the time you spent waiting will feel like it was almost nothing anymore, because it's already here, your baby's here, the thing you designed is finally in your hands, you can hold it, feel it, and you're like, wow, you went from there to here. So once your sample arrives, it's now time to review it and make sure everything is making sense, that the design you sent over is what you have in your hands. So you've got a design here to the left of me or to the right of me. Let's try it on first of all. So it's very easy when you get your new sample in to receive it. And first thing is like, oh, it's amazing. It feels so warm and so nice. It is really warm actually. Nice. It's so warm and so nice. I'm going to put it on my website right now and say it straight away. No. Stop. Pause. Sip some water. Relax. Let's do the correct steps first and then we can release it. Because the last thing you want to do is put out a new product and then find out in a few weeks time, oh, it was too thin here, or after 5 washes it started to bobble and so and so. So first of all, does it fit correctly? Yes, it does fit correctly. I am wearing a size large right now. Just bear in mind that I get my sample done in size large, so it's easier for me to do pattern grades after, but I'll get onto that at the end of the video why I do this. So it fits nicely, it's a cozy fit. Issue number 1, the logo is here, but I think it's too high up. What do you guys think? I think it's too high up. I think this logo can come down a little bit and just sit more in the center of the back of the jacket. But in terms of positioning and everything else, that looks fine. I like this. The zip here is nice as well. It fits very clean. It feels a bit tight, but of course, like I said, it's a size large, so it shouldn't fit me perfectly, but I still like how this fits. This is a very nice jacket. I'd recommend in your sampling process, in the review stage, to wash the item a few times as well. Put it in a washing machine, see how it washes, take it out, wear it out and about. Because I've worn this out a few days ago and I was like, oh, it's warm inside, but it's a little bit thin in certain places. Where you have the logo here, it's a lot warmer because you've got an extra layer, but here's a little bit thin in some places. So I'm going to tell my supplier I need to work on that. Going back to the earlier question that actually inspired this video, is there a minimum number of times you should get a sample done? There's no minimum and there's no maximum number of times you get a sample done. Simple as that. If the sample's correct, it's correct first time. It's right after 3 times, it's right after 3 times. However, there are some parameters that I'll say to put in place. For example, with this jacket, the silhouette is fine, the fit is fine. It's only very minute details like shifting this logo down and maybe putting a second layer on lining on the sleeves of this jacket. That's pretty much it. I don't need to go and get a whole new sample done just for that. It's a quick conversation with my supplier. Say, look, make it warmer here, put more insulation here, change this there, we're done, we're good to go. You have to remember, samples cost money. And you have to look at your budget first of all for that release and say, cool, if I budgeted for, let's say, £100 on sampling, but I now end up doing 3 samples, that's £300 now, it's £200 extra. You need to work that cost into your product cost. So when you're setting your retail price, you can absorb the cost of sampling into that to make sure you're still making a good profit margin overall on your product. So I'm happy with the jacket. I like it. I think it's ready to go pretty much. So now I will just jump onto my phone, tell my supplier, hey, I want to change this, that, get these things fixed and say, cool, I'm ready to go for the bulk production. I want to do X amount of units. I want it to arrive on so and so time. And that's pretty much it. That's how simple sampling can be. Of course, this is a very good example where it came off perfectly pretty much the first time. But don't worry if you have mistakes on the sample. It's normal to happen. It's normal. Me and my supplier built up a long-term and good standing relationship where they understand what I want and what my brand aesthetic is, so more time they're going to get it correct for me. But as you're building with them, there were a lot of mistakes and a lot of incorrect samples, but it's part of the process. Fall in love with it, enjoy it, and just make sure you keep it within budget. I am a man of my word, so like I said, I've got a few extra little tips and tricks for you because you stayed to the end of the video, so well done to you. Number one, sampling is expensive, but there are ways around it and to reduce these costs. For example, the majority of suppliers have got a system where they'll say to you, if you do a sample with us and then you go and do bulk production after, they will refund that sampling fee off of your bulk production. A lot of them will do it, not a lot of them will say it up front, but ask them and say, hey, if I do the sample with you, how many, what's it called? But I am a man of my word, so like I said, I've got a few extra little tips and tricks for you because you stayed to the end of the video, so well done to you. Number one, sampling is expensive, but there are ways around it and to reduce these costs. For example, the majority of suppliers have got a system where they'll say to you, if you do a sample with us and then you go and do bulk production after, they will refund that sampling fee off of your bulk production. A lot of them will do it, not a lot of them will say it up front. But ask them and just say, hey, if I do this sample with you, can I get the sample cost refunded by doing bulk? Most will say yes. Some might say, oh, you got to do a certain amount of units with us to get that refunded. It could be 100, 200 or something, but at least you're aware of what you need to do to get that sample fee refunded. Two, like I said, samples are expensive, but there is a way to get the cost back. If your supplier says no to refunding your sampling fee, it's not the end of the world. For example, let's say you do 2 samples for each new release, and you release, let's say, 10 items a month. That's going to be 20 samples you're making a month. 20 times 10, 200 times 2, 40, 240 samples are being made in 1 year. That's a lot. That's a lot. But let's say, for example, that costs you £100 for each sample. That is now 24 grand you spent on sampling. At that cost, they're thinking, damn, that's 24k gone on sampling. That's a lot of money gone. But what you can do is keep your samples, and at the end of the year, do a sample sale where you can say, cool, I'm going to sell every sample for half price, for example, 50 quid. You're making back half your money from the sampling fee. At least you're making some of it back. You already absorbed that cost into your product pricing. You now get extra bit of cash at the end of the year by doing a sample sale on the remaining samples you have left over. And the third and final tip for this video today is do your samples in a size large if you can. When I first started my brand, I'm 6'7". I wanted to market my brand, so I got all my samples made in my size, XXL/XL, which is fine. I can wear it around and sample it and show the whole world, hey, look, I'm wearing Jehuku. Crazy. But the issue is that when it comes down to doing your pattern grades, when you sample in a size large, it's easier for you to go from a size large and pattern grade for the size extra large and XXL and go down 2 sizes for the M and the S, compared to doing a XXL and then trying to size down from XL, XXL, small, large, whatever, a medium, and so. So try and keep it as a size large for your sampling is what I would say for sure. Just to summarize this video again real quick, the sampling process is very simple and it's the most important part of your business. So you start with designing your item, you annotate it, you send your supplier it, you receive it, and then from there, you sign it off and review it, hopefully, and go from there. Thank you for watching this video today. I'm Ime4K, owner and founder of Jehuku. Any other questions you may have when starting a brand, please put in the comments. Let me know so I can help answer them for you. And make sure you subscribe and don't miss out on the content coming.